to go ahead and go over some things I noticed as y'all were going through your um, soccer flyer. Started writing down some things on the board, trying to scaffold what I could teach. I'm going to go ahead and get started. These are some of the questions. How do you insert photos? How do you get type into the program? Why do you need columns? How do you bring objects on top of another? How do you do drop shadows? And what exactly is a masthead? These are all questions I heard you ask, and so I wanted to cover them. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new file. And just to reiterate, there's a lot of things you can do with this program. I know it seems like from when you get started off, it doesn't have much, that it's kind of bobo, but it's not. So we're going to go ahead and click, I'm going to click print. Yeah, I'm going to change my unit of measurement to inches. If I go to margins, I can change all those. I'm going to show you one other way to do it that's a little different. I'm going to go ahead and say create. Okay, and you're like, well, you didn't do the columns or any of that, but I'm going to show you, and I could have done it from the beginning, but I'm going to show you something else. And under object, or sorry, layout, margins, and columns, I can click that, and this is the framework of this right here. So if I click you'll see I add more columns. Somebody asked, why do you exactly need columns? And I'll touch base on that. This gear right here, or this little link, I'm going to uncheck it. And if I press down, you see that margin goes up. I'm going to hold down Shift and press it a couple of times just to make it about like right there. All right, so we can start flowing. I'll explain why I did that in a second. So here, I have a 1/4 inch margin going around. I have these going here. If I were to create a masthead, I could take that and drag it over here and give it any kind of color I want. I'm going to go ahead and go green. All right. So in your so the reason we use columns is it helps you create structure and order. I'm going to go ahead and imagine that I'm going to have an image, and I'm going to have it carry over from here to here. This little spot right here is called the gutter, and that's the space between either an image or a paragraph. And that's important to know because that will be on your file. And I'm teaching it right now. So I'm just going to use a black box right there. That's going to represent type. Okay, I can also click on that, hold down Option, drag one over there. So I'd have type here, maybe type there. Okay, so for soccer images, I'm going to go ahead and just go to File. With the box selected, this is kind of cool. I can say Box Select. I can go File, and I can Place. And if I look under my downloads, because I just downloaded some images, I can find the action activity. I have this picture here. Y'all have a little bit different. Say Open. It by default will throw it in there because I had it selected. Now that's not the end of the world. I can go up here to Object, Fitting, Fill Frame Proportionally, or Fill Content Proportionally. So if I hit Fit Content Proportionally, we see that it fit it within this box here and gave it black borders. Well, that's one way to do it, but it didn't fill the box. Maybe I needed that image to go all the way across. So I'm going to hit Command Z. I'm going to go back to Object. This time I'm going to go to Fitting and say Fill Frame Proportionally. Now, there's the image. If I double click on it, the bounding box turns brown. I can click and drag it down to where I want it. And if I hit Escape and back out, the image is movable. Okay? Sometimes you'll double click on an image and you don't realize it's kind of like a mask. I can move that image right here. I could frame this picture to be a little bit like the rule of thirds. Okay? Next, so I have that image there. I'm going to take this image right here, go File. Again, I selected it, File, Place. And I'm going to use this image right here. Again, same situation, put it in there, you can't see it. Object, Fitting, Fill Frame Proportionally. There he is right there. I'm going to click and bring him down. Okay? So there's that image right there. All right. Of course, it would have been easier to have a video at the beginning, but I wanted y'all to struggle and it was more or less a pre-assessment to gauge what you would probably figure out on your own. How do I give this image a drop shadow? There is a little drop shadow button here. I can just click it and it will instantly apply it. If I don't want to do that, I can always go to Window Effects panel, pull that up, and assign effects here. Or I can, but I like to just, we'll talk about that in a little while. Just go ahead for right now. Just know that your button's here. I can assign an inner glow to it if I want the picture to have it. There it goes. So let me just go back. So you saw that. I clicked this little button right here. The check mark tells me that there's a drop shadow being applied. If I want an inner, let's say I want to bevel and emboss on this photo. If I click preview right here, you're going to see the photo kind of look like a button. Avoid doing that. It kind of looks tacky. But I'm going to turn that off. And inner shadow. Sometimes you might have an inner shadow. You can click all these and see, kind of build up and see what it's doing to the shot. That directional feather was pretty cool. Alright, I'm just leaving drop shadow checked for right now. Okay, so I have that image. If I click this one, I can also just click the drop shadow button. If I want to affect my drop shadow, say for instance I don't want to make it so long, I can click here, go here, and I can change the distance of it. See, it's really far. Or I can drop the opacity, and it's almost barely visible. So here are your images, right? And the idea is that these kind of overlap. That one image is right here. Mr. Bush, you might ask me, how do you put a border, a colored border around here? Well, I think if you double click here, say for instance I want to give that kind of a yellow border, and I bump up my stroke width, you can see that image now has a yellow border going around it. Click there, stroke fill just like in Illustrator. Say okay, bada bing, bada boom. Also, if I do a lot of techniques and stuff to this and I want it to go there, all I got to do is select this, use my eyedropper tool. Be careful when you click on this, click and hold down the eyedropper tool. All you have to do is click on that and it should just apply the settings to it. Maybe, okay, we'll just hold off for that. That usually works, but we'll just hold off for that right now. Okay, placeholder text. Sometimes I'm going to have you create a placeholder tag. You might need just type to fill this certain area. I'm going to put this picture right here. This isn't really good design. We would rotate this back to where it needs to be like that. Put it over here. Make sure it's kind of clean. Okay. So that's another thing that happens. Sometimes you'll click on here and you'll pull down and you'll be double clicked and you'll be pulling the image down. Okay, so make sure when you click there's a blue box going around it. But if you need placeholder type, you can click the text tool, click and drag out a text box. You can say type, fill with placeholder text. Now that's just body copy. I could use that and click and drag it down here with an option key. Alright, so you actually have type for this project, and that is right on your Edmodo page. I provided that to you. On top of this ping file, there is down in the comments, make sure you click comments because there it is right there. Don't use the PDF. You can actually download this and copy and paste the type that needs to go in there. Okay, so that handles a couple of your questions. Let's go back and look at some of the others. How do I insert photos? I covered that. How do you get type into the program? I think I covered that. Y columns, explain that. How to bring objects on top of each other. That's a great question. So that picture was naturally on top, but if I want this image right here on top, I just hold down Command. Anytime you hold down Command with any tool, it gives you the black arrow tool. So I'm going to hold down Command, click that. I'm going to say Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. And that will put that photo on that one. Maybe you do some kind of cool little overlap where there's multiple photos. You cannot resize it until you use the free transform tool. So make sure you remember that. That's kind of like Illustrator. You can't resize it with the black box. It just resizes the bounding box. Okay, so I'm going to go back a couple of steps. Last thing to remember, we've covered type, we've covered placing those. I think that covers everything. You know your ping file is there. You can place that on the masthead if you want. That will give you the green type. Examples of this project. This is one of the great questions I heard somebody say. What does it look like? So this is a visual example of somebody who did a flyer and kind of rushed it. See, their type isn't really, it's kind of nasty. This is a really clean flyer, like this box going around it. That's good. See this line here, these here, that's really good. We got at least a line to an edge, and they use that right there. So you can do that too. All right. After you get done with this, we'll cover text wrapping, and that will be in the next video. If you finished the soccer flyer, go on to text wrapping. Signing off.